Report from Commissioner Pamela Woods.
Well, after the meeting we had, it seems so long ago because so much has happened, there was a county council meeting the following day in which some things happened, that affected all of us. And just as a coincidence, there was a meeting the same day of, what I call the dream team, Ray, Randy, Chet, that we continue to work on getting the countywide homeless plan pulled together, which will be presented February 8th at the Roundtable of Cities. But with the immediate issue in front of us of what had happened at the county council meeting, we talked about how to address the short-term solution the city had to look at. And their suggestion and what we did immediately was get a meeting in place, talk to Jim about it, and we said, let's get everybody at the table and figure out what we need to do. Fortunately, everybody that we invited showed up at the table for our first meeting, which was on the 12th of January, and we sat down and looked at what was going on, what we needed to do, what resources we had. It was an example of a best practice that's talked about in this country when you deal with homeless called coordinated assessment. And the agencies that were there, just so y'all know, were Halifax Urban Ministries, Salvation Army, Stuart Marchman Act Behavioral, the Continuum of Care, the Coalition for the Homeless, the Faith Group officially, but also Little F Faith Community, pastors, and the Roundtable of Cities Homeless Subcommittee, the City of Daytona Beach. At our second meeting that we just had this yesterday afternoon, also we had a representative from the County of Volusia. Councilman Wagner had been invited to the meeting on Tuesday, was aware of what we were doing, but did not come to that meeting. And what we did is we started immediately Wednesday morning, so that would be January 12th. What we used is, y'all all know because you heard Salvation Army talk about it, they successfully ended veterans homelessness in Volusia County using a very specific model. So we took their outreach team that they already had in place, and they'd already been trained on how to do outreach, and we sent them down to Beach Street. And they started Wednesday morning. They've been down there every day since then, assessing the individuals on the street. What you have in front of you is a summary of the meeting yesterday. We decided to move forward with action. They assessed within the first few days 53 people that were actually on the Beach Street location. They used a tool called the VI SPDAT, which is an assessment tool, the vulnerability index for homeless, and it tells you their critical vulnerability, what level that they're at. They were able to, in less than a week, place 12 people that were down there on Beach Street already. They were already able to move 12 people out. The rest of them, we brainstormed yesterday and talked about services and things for them, and we're using the case management approach to assist them to getting into some kind of permanent housing. We learned, as you can see, that some of the individuals down there are not homeless, but rather those that prey on the homeless. So I just want y'all to be aware of what's going on down there. We are continuing with the daily assessments and encouraging participation in appropriate programs and services. There were some individuals that were assessed that really, they were offered to go for treatment, but at this point in time they are choosing not to do it. But we will continue to encourage them, work with them, and try to get them to seek treatment. They related to some mental health or substance abuse issues. Again, it's their choice, but we'll continue to encourage them. Another part of the conversation was what funding resources are available right now. Fortunately, some federal money that passes through the state is called a challenge grant. The contract just went through on that like last week, and it can be used to house or prevent homelessness of 55 individuals that has to be spent between now and June. There's some rapid rehousing money out there. We're looking at where we already have existing beds. Again, everybody's saying, where's this bed, where's that bed, trying to place people. We also discussed the gaps in service, and just so you know, there are some people down there that scored pretty high on the vulnerability index that they need to come off the street because they're at grave physical risk to themselves. But there's some gaps in some medical issues and needs for them that we're trying to work on. We need to do some connecting with some others that could provide service, so we're going to do that. Moving on to looking at the short-term emergency shelter and getting that ready. That was the other piece of what we talked about at our very first meeting, was what do we do with those people that we can't leak very quickly to services and to housing. The Salvation Army is already approved to do 46 cold weather shelter beds. So we talked, and it's inside. It's not outside. So it's not a tent city. We said no tent cities. And that we've been working with them and our fire department and our staff. Jim, if you want to speak to that part before I go on, do you want to? Just talking about what we're doing with that.
Yeah, we're under an emergency condition for the next 90 days. We'll be working with them to shelter these folks that are needing assistance, and then hopefully at that point we'll have a more permanent solution to some of their issues. But we're working hand in hand with the Salvation Army in doing it, and we're finding that their outreach, as the commissioners indicated, is really the key to identifying and then placing and providing the case management necessary to succeed successfully with those that want to be in the program and want to succeed. There's a certain group that we'll probably never reach because they quite honestly are not at this point foreseeing the need for assistance.
Yeah, but again, we're going to continue to keep, because that's what you do. The model that Salvation Army did, for example, with the veterans who are very resistant many times, and I think they even had one person that had been out homeless 20 years and eventually got them to come in. So you got to keep working at building the relationship and building trust. So that's just part of doing that. What you have right after that, the readiness of the short-term emergency shelter, is that every day the shelter will open at 5 p.m. The individuals, residents can go in and receive dinner and breakfast. They'll be able to shower. There'll be security on site to make, again, we want to make sure whoever's there is safe, because they're living in a group setting. So they'll have additional staff there. They can leave the gym area and go out in the community or stay in the courtyard area where we're going to have that available, to stay during the day if they want to. Case management's critical and key. We're going to continue to provide that. Stuart Marchman Act took over some of the old Windward's Serenity House. They went away and we lost some beds. The Stuart Marchman Act picked up one of their programs. It's called the PATH program, and it has outreach workers, and it has some funding to place in housing. So again, we're tapping whatever money we can have around to get them into permanent housing. But what you find when you do this is that there's some things you didn't think about that you need to address. And one of course, is storage for their personal items. People are afraid of losing their things. So we're going to have pods set up on site where they can bring their items, check them in, they'll be there. We're trying to find volunteers to help us kind of manage that system for them. But we want them to know that their things will be safe. Dogs, pets, we know at least 3 of them down there have dogs. So we're trying to look at, can we find volunteers, if they'll come in to the shelter, the emergency shelter, that they can get their pets when they get into permanent housing. So those are the kinds of things. Just so you know, the cost estimate right now is $5,500 to $6,000 a week for us to do this effort, to cover all of it, to feed them, to house them, to get them off of Beach Street. That is the piece that we would be looking at, within the city. And then the case management services, the housing pieces, those will be provided by the external agencies at this point in time. We also have some people that may want to go back where they came from. You heard the guy from California talk about it last week in the forum. We're working on that. He has a few little barriers. But Mark Gialis just told me tonight from HUM that we did have our first one leave today. So we also are going to look at trying to make sure the funding is available for Travelers Aid. It's not been funded enough if people want to go back home. And part of that is you have to make sure there's somebody there to receive them. It's not buying a bus ticket without making a contact ahead of time. So we're doing that. You see where Father Phil created the $100 club to support Safe Harbor, and he's already been collecting funds from people in the community that want to support the longer term solution, which is Come As You Are Center that provides services and again end games to get them out of homelessness. Tonight, you have on the agenda to establish an account where people can contribute to the short term, which is what we're doing with Beach Street, or the long term. And the reason that came about, just so you know, this was not our idea, but as we were talking last week about when people want to give, what can they do, the group, we start talking about agencies. Well, everybody has a problem with this or that. Y'all know that. Sometimes they say, well, I don't want to give to this, I want to give to that. So Jim said, if we need to in the short term do this, we can look at establishing it and people can give in that manner. We're going to continue to meet. Our group will continue to meet. We meet again next week to using coordinated assessment to work this issue. We are being accountable. We're doing, again, Homeless Management Information System is what HMIS stands for, and we're setting up a separate coding and way to know exactly what's happening with this particular client base that we're going to be serving. And we'll continue to look for funding, to operate the long-term solution. So that's what's happened since the last commission meeting. Do y'all have any questions of what we're doing?
I don't have any questions.
You've been working really hard.
Yeah.
Amazing. I just have one question.
Sure.
About the, I guess the emergency nature of the shelter allows us to have shelter at the Salvation Army site. I just think back, on how we changed our code so that we couldn't do expansion. Is there anything that we need to do to make sure that we aren't violating our own code, and to put a date certain that we are going to make sure that this is temporary?
Yeah, I'm going to issue a notice that declares this emergency and establish it for 90 days, and then we'll review it again during that 90-day period. We have the flexibility of doing that, and the good news is the Salvation Army shelter is already permitted for these units, even though they're for emergency basis only. So it's not violating the intent of what our ordinance was as we established initially.
Okay, and what about, we'll review it in 90 days. This commission will review it in 90 days?
We'll come back here in 90 days.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that we wanted to do it with them, because the beds are already permitted within the city. It wasn't doing something new, and it wasn't expanding. So we've been very cognizant in our conversation of, maintaining what we said we would do, in the city and in the community, but trying to address the problem, and deal with the problem at the same time. But I just want to tell you that's not in here. I talked to Mr. Deneen yesterday because there were so many things swirling around. I just picked up the phone and called him. I just said, I need to talk to you. So we've communicated. I've tried to give him information, and so he has what information we've been able to give him, and this information, to take tomorrow to the county council. I also reached out to Councilwoman Joyce Cusack because she's the at-large member of the county council, and issued an invitation to her to become part of this working group, and she has accepted. And so I'm going to send her all the back information, and she'll participate at the county level from now on.
Okay. Well, on behalf of your colleagues and your community, I would again, and I can't overstate this, how much we thank you. And I know you probably think of me with scorn from time to time, but as a spiritual man, I happen to think that it was God that had me to ask you, so don't blame me. But thank you for your service. It's been remarkable, and I'm actually very proud of your work.
I just want to say to you, Jim's been at the meetings, and it really has been great to see all the different agencies come sit at the table and work a problem. And that's what we're doing. We're working a problem. Okay?
Okay.
I have two things that I want to address. And from what I can tell about what the county said, is that there was a need to do something temporary, which seems to be going on. And the other need was to make some sort of a commitment to the offer that they've given us, which is, to me, there's an offer on the table for land and for capital costs, or capital money to build Volusia Safe Harbor. I think that it's important that not only do we continue to work on the temporary solution, but that we make some very definite steps to secure the long-term solution. To that effect, I think there's two things we need to do. I think the first one is give very direct instruction to the manager to go to the county, tell them that we accept their offer for land and for capital money to construct Volusia Safe Harbor. I think that they're looking for somebody to be the chief fundraiser. I don't have a problem saying that the city of Daytona Beach could commit to doing that for the operation costs. The second thing that we need to do is, and I think we kind of did it in your motion last week, you moved to move forward with Safe Harbor and to get with the other cities in the county. And I would like to make a very clear motion that we direct you to do that, to look for funding sources, most significantly from other cities, and to start with the 11 cities that invested in the Volusia Safe Harbor plan. And they're listed in page 27 of the Volusia Safe Harbor business plan that we, I guess, accepted or heard last meeting. And there's 11 in there. Many of those have verbally even said they're ready. We want to do this. So I don't know if this is the right time to entertain a motion. I don't know if the rest of you agree with me. But again, I think our action items need to be accept the county's offer for land and capital and direct the manager to go start talking to other cities to get a commitment of what their funding would be.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to a proposal. Let's have some discussion for this, if there's any. Do y'all have any discussion?
I think we need to revisit the opportunity with the county. When you look at 10 years of this, with $1.6 million a year and another $4 million, it's $20 million bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And the county's willing to put in 20%. And honestly, I think we need for them to take more of a leadership role in this. And I think there's a lot of precedent in the past with the jails, with the beach. This is a countywide issue. And I think that we need to look at this more with longevity than perhaps where I was, with the vision of this a year ago. I totally agree with what Kelly is saying, but I think we need to go back to them. And the paper this morning, you saw, Port Orange took an action last night, but Chief Ford, who's on their commission, he echoed that sentiment that this is a countywide issue, and we need for the county, who has stepped forward and agreed to participate, to take another step forward and agree to participate at a greater level. And I think that's something else that we need to explore.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say to that, being a person that likes to negotiate, is trying to negotiate in the sunshine with 7 other people who have to agree to negotiate with 7 other people that aren't quite sure what they're negotiating on. The only thing I would say to you in that regard is that currently there is a very concrete offer, and that offer is for land and construction costs. And we will not know what the other offers are, including operation money that could come from the county, until we secure in writing that offer. And I'm suggesting that we make a commitment to fundraise for the operations, secure that offer in writing, get it back to us in contract formation, and then we can go out and fundraise for operations. And I agree with you, we should maybe hit the county up for some operational money, but we cannot do that until we have something in writing that says we are going to take your land, we're going to take your offer of capital, and we're going to get started fundraising for operations. I think we can do that after we get something in writing and we accept it.
Let me just make a comment that they've been very clear they don't want to fund operating, they don't want to own it. That does not mean that they won't have a conversation with us about how we can get a funding source together. So I think if you just leave the motion the way it is, and let's go to the table with the city manager and the county manager and others that may want to help, and let them talk about it. I will tell you, it's my understanding there's going to be something brought up tomorrow, okay? And just whether we can do it or not, but like Kelly said, if you take what you have now and then you try to figure out what you can go back and talk about. Jim, I know you want to say something about that too.
I was going to let y'all say everything you want to say, and then I'll chime in.
Well, let me chime in, because I don't feel comfortable, because this is what I'm hearing. If we accept the offer, then we're accepting the responsibility of $1.6 million for the next so many years. I don't feel comfortable going out on a limb like that without some more assurance from the county.
That cannot be part of the agreement.
Yeah.
The future funding of this cannot be part of the agreement from the county, because we can't.
Now, we can accept the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Accept the land.
Yeah, we have a responsibility to the taxpayers of Daytona Beach not to obligate them to, what would amount to, about a 6% tax increase in perpetuity to simply pay for this if nobody else shows up to be on our team.
Right. I don't think we should be held to that. I think the other piece of this is what I said the night Marbert was here, okay? And I said to him, you need to revisit what it should look like. And I think that's part of the negotiations, all right? So I hate to go cast anything in stone. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. What we need to do is we need to look at how efficient can this work? What is it we should really build to and serve? What should the budget really be in the end? Is there a way, and I'm just throwing this out for conversation, to have the operating budget only be $1 million? There's so many unknowns that way. So that's what I'm saying to you. I wouldn't go say it's going to cost this amount and obligate us to this amount when we don't know. There's a lot of work from that standpoint, those details that have to be worked out as it moves forward. I can tell you, I think part of that was the issue with Port Orange last night is they kept looking at what was the original proposal, 250 beds, and whatever they were asked to give was over 300,000. Well, we all know that's not realistic. So you step back and you develop what is appropriate. The other piece of this that bothered me, but that's not understanding what we're going to do out there, is him calling it a gulag. That is not what is going to happen out there. That's not putting these people out at this location and nothing happening. It's the same thing you do. It's a 24/7 place where people can go that need services in the middle of the night or during the day or whatever, when your outreach workers aren't working, that is available for them to go, be safe, and again, you work them to get them out of homelessness. So whatever your bed population is, you need to be turning it as quickly as you can to get them out of homelessness and into housing. And I keep realizing people don't understand what we're actually talking about doing.
So,
Go ahead.
the time for us to act on something is now. And the governance structure is not something that I understand. But I do understand trying to orchestrate something that's complicated. And if we cannot commit to saying that we're the chief fundraisers, not that we're going to fundraise the whole thing, but we are going to go out and figure out the operations for this thing and go ahead and give the county that assurance. So we've got to secure one of the moving parts. Right now, we're talking about $4 million in capital. We're talking about land. We don't control it. It's still kind of something out in the universe that is being said that there's an offer. Accept the offer. Let's accept the offer. Let's secure that piece of the puzzle, because you cannot fundraise for something that you don't even have that for, and you cannot set up a governance structure for it either.
Mr. Bear, I'm okay with accepting the land and the money, but not with the stipulation that we're on the hook for that kind of money. Now the county want to step up, put the land out there anyway, say here's the land, here's the money. Take the stipulation away.
I'm suggesting that we say that we will fundraise for it. The capital to build it is something the county is asking to. I mean, they're saying that they will do that.
Okay, I think we've already said that we would fundraise for this.
Yeah.
So I don't think that anyone is disagreeing with you, and I agree that we've already taken the lead.
Yeah.
So if this is the next step, a logical step of our leadership is to say that we will take the lead, but as Commissioner Henry and Commissioner Gilliland are stating, whatever we do from here has to assure our future and our children that they're not on the hook for $16 million over the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
We cannot agree to that, but I believe that this is going to work. I believe that the community is ready for it. But I also have to say that if for some reason it doesn't work, we can't be on the hook for it. And that's all that we're, I think, stating tonight, is that we're not agreeing to be on the hook for $16 million. We are agreeing to do everything else because this community has called for it. We as a commission have called for it. Now let's go out and see if we can really make it happen.
Yeah, we've got
because
to
there are a whole lot of other people who have to step up and help us make it happen. Father Phil has been a tremendous advocate, and we commend him. But we need about 5 or 10 other Father Phils we need a Father Phil from the business community, and so we need other parts to help us to achieve the goal. But I think, from what I'm hearing, I think we can agree with what you're saying.
So and I'll stop and let you all talk, but the motion that I would like us to consider is a 2-part motion, and I want to give a timeline to that because I think it's will give us some more assurances. The first part of it is directing the manager to look for funding sources, very specifically going to the cities that are listed in the business plan, there are 11 of them, and asking them what part of this operations they can fund. And I would like feedback on that subject by February 3rd. That's our next city commission meeting. The second part of the motion would be for him to sit down with the city manager or the county manager and say, we will be, I say chief fundraiser. We want to go ahead and create some sort of contract that our commission can approve that states that we can, they can transfer the land to Volusia Safe Harbor, and that the capital costs of, they say, up to $4 million are reimbursable. And I would like something in contract form for us to see by the February 17th meeting. So by February 3rd, we may have a pretty good idea of who's out there that says, hey, if you guys are taking the lead, Daytona, we paid for the business plan. We'd like to say, we're going to give you $100,000. We're going to do this. We're going to commit to this. And we should have that feedback by February 3rd. By February 17th, we should have some sort of contract to look at that states what the relationship would be. And so the county has given us a timeline with their offer, and I want to say that we accept their offer.
I don't think February 3rd is a reasonable date, because the commissions and their bodies have to meet and make a decision as to whether they're in any form of agreement. And
Well,
that's
we actually made the motion to accept Safe Harbor and to move forward with talking to the city's last city commission meeting. So to have some sort of report on, hey, I haven't gotten to everybody yet, or hey, they are going to talk to their manager, or hey, I talked to this manager and they said that their commission is eager to put it on the edge. I mean, we need some sort of feedback. There has got to be a way to do this that on February 3rd we can have feedback.
Feedback's not a commitment, and I'm going to tell you right now, if I was an elected body, I would say, well, I'm not doing the formula. It was originally proposed. What's Plan B and what's your formula? And we hadn't figured that out yet. I mean, I think we can talk to them, but I think you can't get into the nitty-gritty. We're not there. And Kelly, you're talking less than 2 weeks. Their bodies won't have met. I think the time frame's really tight to try to even do that. That's just my opinion.
If we don't have a time frame, we are going to.
I'm saying
we're going to circle.
it's too
the drain on
close.
this.
You know,
Let Jim.
You know, I don't think anybody denies that this is a very complicated project to take on, and to try to meet that time frame, I think, may hinder us from being successful in the end. And I think it's too close, because there are a number of options beyond just talking to cities that may be available to us. And in fact, I've had some discussions already about some of those options, but we're not going to be able to get an answer immediately on some of those issues. The other part of it is we just advertised for, a design contract with architect, and we know, because we've been working with this now, that the original proposed design is going to change. It's not going to be what was contained in the original document. It's going to be different, because you have different parties with different agendas, and we have to now push all of those agendas into the same project and make the changes that accommodates them.
Right.
So that means the operating cost is going to change. In some cases, it'll reduce the operating cost. Some cases, it may increase the operating cost. So there's work that has to be done to even be able to define exactly what it's going to cost. Now,
Absolutely.
we've gone through operating, normal operating cost of a shelter. We know what that is proposed to be, but it doesn't include the medical element. It doesn't include some of the mental health elements that were at one time thought to be somebody else's expense, and it may not be that in the end. So
Right.
there are things that have to be worked out to make that happen.
Absolutely, but we can still gauge the interests of other cities. You could still report on these other funding sources you're exploring, and we could still go to the city and start working on a contract, or the county and start working on a contract to say, we accept your offer. I mean, this is going to be a moving target until it opens, and it's going to continue to be a moving target.
We're not going to be able to conclude everything within those dates.
No.
However, to be able to do what you want, what I think I'm hearing you say, you want us to make an effort to go and talk to all the cities that we can and report back what their status is, and to meet with the county by the 17th and have some idea of their acceptance of our proposed initiative.
Yes,
Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
We're not asking for them to be concluded. We're asking for those steps to go forward.
Those steps need to be on our agenda. We need
Okay.
to talk about, on February 3rd, we need to talk about other funding options, and we need to talk about what sort of feedback we're getting from the cities, most specifically the cities that paid for this, because they're our fellow investors in this project. And we, by the 17th, maybe even before, we need to have some sort of idea what a contract or an agreement would look like with the county to do this.
I agree with everything you're saying on that. I don't think we need a motion for that. We just give him directions.
I want it on the record. I want it clear because I want to make sure that we're following some sort of a timeline.
I mean, because I read what they said. Upon this condition, these conditions, I'm not willing to go on a limb upon their conditions. And I'm with the city manager on this one. 60 days don't give us enough time to even meet their conditions. Fine, we give him his marching orders. He can go and do all those things, and we come back on the 17th. He can report back and say they said this, they agreed to this, or whatever.
Yeah, I have taken this, and I know it's crazy the amount of information, but the temporary thing to me is the most difficult. And thanks to Pam and her amazing work ethic, we have a temporary solution. So that part of it, I mean, to meet in 60 days, some sort of deadline to say, yeah, we accept your offer, let's go to contract and figure, this out. I don't think that's unreasonable. The community's been waiting for this for 3 years. I went back and looked we started working on this, talking about it in 2012. We did the social service ban in 2010. I mean, this is an issue since, God, I mean, you've been working on it
Way
forever.
before.
Wait.
So,
Kelly,
yeah.
It's been 20, it's, yeah.
It's been
we need you to
forever.
make sure that you don't get us out and rush us down the path towards something. I realize government is a bureaucracy and it moves slowly. I'm sorry about that. We meet every 2 weeks and we're all part-time at best with our other jobs. Well, we're full-time and part-time. But nonetheless, we can't push ourselves down the road and then we may threaten the survivability of this project if we force it down the road, because if it comes to us at a point to where we cannot succeed, we're going to be forced to say no.
But
So
there's
you
no
have
project
to
until there's some sort of. I mean, right now we have a business plan, but there's. I mean, to me, the project dies if we continue to say, well, we're going to have a.
How does it die?
Do this.
It dies because the county says that we're going to just take it back. Is that how it dies?
It may die that, or it dies just from us continuing to talk about why we can't take this risk or that risk. I mean, I feel if there is any issue that will draw passion in this city, and especially in my zone, it is this issue. And it's on both ends. It's people that are asking me for money every time I walk down the street. And it's from the small business community in my zone on Beach Street and downtown and in Midtown that are in tears, that are constantly in a state of stress that you would never imagine. And we are sitting here saying, well, I don't know that we can really go and ask the county for a contract. I mean, this is really important, and the time to act is now. We need to go and find out what the deal is, and we need to have a contract with the deal that we can say yay or nay to. I think it's that important.
I think that's the key, because you've been saying to this point, you've been saying a deal we can accept. And what we need is a deal we can say yay or nay
Right.
to.
There's
And
gotta
what
be
we really
something.
need, right now we have a verbal, kind of haphazardly put together offer for something that has changed a little bit every time somebody talks about it.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. We need the county to give us something in writing on what this offer is. And once we get it, then we can take a look at it. If it's great and they just say there's a $4 million check attached to it, then wonderful. But we may have to redline the thing and send it back, and make it part of negotiation. But right now, without anything in writing, they basically have given us an unsigned check. That is good for nothing. So we need to get them to tell us in clear detail exactly what their offer is, and we have a starting place then to begin negotiation with them on how do we get down the road.
Well, I think that's probably what the motion should be amended to state, that we want Jim to sit down with Jim Deneen and give us something in writing that says this is exactly what needs to happen for us to have a written contract. And that's then something concrete that we can look at and evaluate and determine, can we do it? I want to tell you, Kelly, there are people working every single day on the long-term solutions. And it is such this moving, so many balls in the air that all have to be moving simultaneously.
Absolutely.
So it is all going on, and I can assure you there is a sense of urgency with all of us that are involved in it. We had to kind of take a little break to deal with the immediate short-term solution and put in a whole lot of time to get that done. But, now as we're moving forward with that, we're going to step back and keep working on trying to get the longer-term solution and getting all those balls together in one big one to do this. But I do think all we need to move forward tonight is getting something in writing from the county that we can seriously evaluate.
I think it was one important thing that happened. We found out who the agencies are. We found out where the resources were, and we found out who could react and provide service. And that was very important. It's very important to the success in the end. And so, it took us some time to do all that, but we probably wouldn't have gotten there unless we had kind of a crisis building in the city. Now, that said, I think I'm comfortable moving forward because I fully intend to provide a proposal to the county that will have to be ratified by this commission, but I don't know if I can do it within those dates. Now, I can tell you I'm going to meet with the county before the 17th. I'm going to meet with our city managers. Will we get anything that definable at that point? I can't tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I want.
But if you just want to report back, I can give you a report back, and I can tell you we're going to try to get something going. This is like one step at a time, because once you get to a point of finding out what the issues are with the other jurisdictions, we're going to have to work to solve those issues, whether it's the county or whether it's another city, and that's going to be the challenge. And I don't see there'll be opposition to certain things that have been suggested, but I don't think everybody's going to walk away and say, "Oh, we're not going to do anything." I think there is a sincere desire on most of the cities, with the exception of a couple who have not agreed to anything. I don't expect them to agree.
Go to the 11 that gave us money for the business plan. If anything, we owe them a follow-up on the business plan that they invested in. They paid for this.
Absolutely.
So, even if you come back and report to us, hey, it's on their agenda as an item that they're going to have a report on. I mean, there has got to be some sort of deliverable that is going out to those cities, and I want to know that it's at least in the pipeline by February 3rd.
I don't agree with that date. That's what I'm saying to you. It's unrealistic with everything else we're trying to do right now to expect it to be done by then. I mean, we still have to get the short-term solution going and manage it. I mean, there's that's what I'm saying. The 17th is reasonable. The 17th is reasonable to get something back.
So on the 17th, we can have a report on what is going on with the other cities.
The county, I think it's more important what we said earlier about what Rob said about getting something, working with the county to get something in writing. Again, there's some things that will happen tomorrow at county council meeting that I think that's another piece. We need to know what's going to happen tomorrow as well. So I think the 17th is a reasonable date to have as much information from as many different areas. And if we can get some kind of written contract from the county, great, let's get it. And just keep moving forward with it. I don't know what the original motion is, but I'm not hearing that that's what we're going to...
I don't think the dates were in the original motion.
No.
She stated, and I think
But you
with the
can't
exception
commit
of the
us to the
dates, we're in agreement with what she said.
Except for the funding. We didn't say...
You didn't say the funding?
What did the motion? I need them to read it back.
You want to read it back?
This is what I had written down: to look for funding sources and start with the 11 Volusia County cities that were in the plan, and to accept the county's offer for land and capital.
Okay. But that had a stipulation, and that's what we're not willing to accept as a stipulation. That's what Commissioner Henry's concern is.
Well, we can propose it without it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, there's nothing. We don't have to go by exactly their terms. And we can build in protections for us in doing that.
Okay.
But I want to report back on that on February 3rd. You don't have, I want, between now and then, you are going to talk to the county manager. I mean,
In essence, you
Yes.
just want updates.
I want an
So it should
update
be on
by
our
February
agenda
3rd.
at every
That's
meeting, an
2
update.
weeks, and when you're talking about something we've been talking about for 4 years, how long have they been saying the $4 million and this is what we need? What do they need? I mean, like, we need this. This has got to be something that we address in the next city commission
The
meeting.
only county council meeting between now and then is tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how you can expect, and I understand that there's a sense of urgency, but you're expecting us to go from 0 to 90 in one meeting. I mean, I just think we gotta, you know.
It's like we're on a talk show or something. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I have proposed what I think we need to do.
Okay.
Do you want to amend my motion? Do you want to suggest a different date? I mean, I'm giving you the best I've got. I think we need to hear something back by the 3rd. Somebody disagree with me and give me another alternative.
All right.
So the motion that the
Didn't
clerk
have
read
to.
back and was seconded by Paula, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Read it one more time.
To look for funding sources and to start with the 11 Volusia County cities that were on the list and to accept the county's offer for the land and capital.
You didn't have dates in it, and
I
there's
can
not
amend it
dates in
anyway
it
that
right
we
now.
need to
So
amend
could
it.
I amend it to say, and have a report on both items on or before our February 17th meeting?
February 17th, you said?
Yeah, that's our
February
second
17th.
meeting in February.
Paula.
That word accept,
We got to take the
you
stipulations out.
gotta say that it is to accept the offer without
the-
conditions. We can't just
Well, we can't
their
accept-
condition. Just
Wait, say it again. Read it off again.
To look for funding sources and start with the 11 Volusia County cities and to accept the county's offer for land and capital.
Can't
Okay, so
What we need to do is let us propose and go work on it and bring something
Okay.
back to the commission.
but it has to be
We'll
Directed
do
in
something by the
this.
17th, but we're not going to resolve all the issues about funding.
no, we're not. I know we're not going to resolve them.
She just wants an update.
Yeah, I want an update. I know we're not going to resolve them. I mean, we may not resolve operational issue funding until we turn dirt. I mean, it may be a moving target for a while,
Well,
but I want an update.
Oh, it will be, trust me.
Yes, and I know that. I mean, I am fully aware of that. But by the 17th, I want an update on the status of the land and the capital money and the status of the other operational money. I think that's totally reasonable to ask for.
But let's understand what the motion is, because we cannot say that we cannot make a motion to accept their offer as it is stated in
Right.
as I understand it to be. We cannot do that.
So, a question about the motion, Kelly.
Yes.
Is your motion, you said to accept the land and capital, is that to accept the land and capital with no stipulations?
Why don't we make it to clarify? Well,
Or negotiate.
I mean, you can accept. I mean, to me, they've made the offer. We're accepting the offer. I mean, obviously, it's
But
not.
we're obligated to the
Go down there.
$1.6 million a
Okay.
year in their offer.
How would you like to word it?
Honestly, all I want from them is I want their offer in writing.
That's all I want too.
Okay, so-
I got to tell you, Kelly, I'm not going to support the motion that's on the floor. Okay, I'm going to vote no because I think we're getting too complicated here. So I'm just going to tell you that's where I'm at, and I guess I'm going to call the question.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
That
All right.
I just would like.
You
for us
want to call the
Yeah.
question? Okay, we have
There
a.
was an amendment to the motion, to the original motion to add the dates that was never agreed to by
No.
by Paula, who
Okay.
seconded the motion.
Right, I
Right.
didn't second them.
So it's only the original
So it
motion.
dies.
that's on the
Okay,
floor
so
right
it
now.
Motion that
dies.
has no date.
So
Yeah,
we
okay.
have the
We'll call the
original
question.
motion, and that's it.
Okay.
We have.
I'm going to amend the original motion
Well,
to
you can't. The
say.
question's been
I'll call
called.
the
You have to
question.
vote on your original motion.
Okay.
You can't amend it because you don't have a second.
Right.
All right. We're just going to go with the original
Yes.
motion.
Let's just.
All right.
vote
All
it
those
out.
in favor?
Can you read the original
Let's
motion?
do a roll call.
And we'll do a roll call. Okay.
I'll do a roll call. To look for funding sources and to start with the 11 Volusia County cities and to accept the county's offer for land and capital. That was the original motion.
And that's what you're voting on. That's it. Okay.
All right. We have a motion and we have a second. May we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Henry.
No.
Commissioner Reed.
No.
Commissioner Traeger.
I can't support that without knowing a little bit more. No.
No.
Commissioner Woods.
No.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliland.
No.
Mayor Derek Henry.
No.
Okay.
So it fails 1 to 6.
Okay.
Its
I
motion
move-
fails 1-6. Okay.
What I'm going to do is I move that by February 17th, we have an update of all efforts the city manager has made in attempting to move this forward, and that he work with the county to resolve issues revolving around the contract.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Woods and a second by Commissioner Reed.
To have a report by February 17th, 2016, of all efforts of the city manager to move forward, and what was the...
And work with the county to resolve issues on the contract.
And to work with
That's
the
all I'm
county
saying.
to resolve issues on the contract.
And that's the
Okay.
contract.
On the
for
proposed
land.
On the
contract.
proposed contract, yeah.
Yes.
On proposed contract.
Proposed contract, okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission? All right, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Likes not opposed, same sign. This motion passes 7-0. Okay.
And we can go ahead and move on.
Where we are, we're now going to